Hello and welcome to another video, and hello again if you're the few members that did manage to catch my live just now. I was just testing it out to see how it works, doing a live feed of some evenings during the week. It's something I'm going to look into doing anyway, but that was just a tester. And today we are looking at Hall Place. Now obviously in the last video I said you there's a clue, and that's because the book was sitting up here and I didn't realise that until I was actually filming the video. But yeah, so we're looking at Hall Place. Now Hall Place is, well, for me, is going to have the Dartford Tunnel, going to have the Dartford Bridge, and going heading towards Bexley. It comes under Bexley, Dartford area still, I believe. So it's not far for me to travel to, and it's one of these places that I did know of, and it wasn't until a local person come to me with their experiences from their family members, and this was probably about 10 years ago, that I really got interested in the ongoings around the area. Now I did visit it. I didn't manage to get inside the hall itself, but I did go around the grounds, which is mainly where the story I know of comes from. But we're going to cover the breadth, a little bit of the history, and the other ghosts that are around this area. It's quite interesting that, well, you'll see somebody comes up in it and their situation comes up in it that is quite relevant to sort of like the paranormal side of it now. So anyway, let's get into the video. So Hall Place was built in 1537, and that was by John Champinis. I don't know if I'm saying that name right at all, but we're going to go with that. Now, he was an alderman. He was quite very well respected within the London area, and he made his way up. Now, he built the original, what you see, the old grey stone side of the building. The rest of it, the red brick area, was built later on. Now, unfortunately, shortly after building it, well, I say shortly, 1556, he was one of 6 people, or 6 aldermen, that actually died of the plague, and there's a memorial set up for him in the local church in Bexley. That is one of the ghosts that is said to haunt that area where the grey building is. Sometimes he is meant to be seen walking down the path out of the building itself, heading towards where the gardens are. Now, Sir John would have had many guests over the years. He was once the Lord Mayor of London, and that was a few years before he come to build this property. He's bring some very well-known people around from the country to come and stay at that property. So after Sir John passed away, the house or the hall was passed through his family for around about another 100 years. Come up to 1653, Robert Austin actually took over the house. Now I can't, looking at the book, work out if he became the landlord or bought it or inherited it. So it was one of those. But he married a lady who had the last name Dashwood. Now, after many years, Austin passed away and the house fell into the hands of the Dashwoods. Now, the person who came to own the hall was Sir Francis Dashwood. Now, if you know anything about paranormal or clubs or anything like that, you'll know that he was the founder of the Hellfire Club, the Dashwood Caves, down in West Wickham. Or over in West Wickham. At the same time, he wrote a book of prayer with some American guy, Benjamin Franklin or something like that. And this Benjamin guy, he also visited the Hellfire Caves as well. So, or the Hellfire Club, we now know it as the Hellfire Caves. So yeah, we've got an old American president linked in with this story of some house in Bexley, which is quite amazing really. But we need to be a little bit clear that Sir Francis, it was one of many properties that he owned, but this one did actually stick with his family for hundreds of years. And it wasn't until, I won't say recently, but when it moved on to Lady Limerick, still see in that book it lists that the Dashwoods were still involved somehow in that property, and it was let out for rain and over this period of time, which will explain some of the names and the people who come up in the ghost stories of it. Now, Lady Limerick, she passed away in 1940 something, so we've jumped a massive gap of history here. So this is like the bullet points of the history of the building, just so you get a footing of how old this building is. Now, it was extended by Rob Austin. Now, that was the red brick building you see around it, and the main, I guess you say, the main building that you look at now from the front as you walk in. And the gardens were a later addition in the 1830s, 1820s, which is where I'm going to tell you the story that really intrigued me. So about 10 years ago, I was not actually doing anything to do with paranormal or anything like that. I was actually teaching a course at a school, and one of the teachers said to me, "I know you from somewhere." I went, "Really?" And she goes, "Yeah." She goes, "I've seen you on a website." I went, "Well, at that time the only website I had up was a paranormal one." I went, "Okay." And she goes, "Yeah." She goes, "You do paranormal, you done paranormal, didn't you?" And I went, "Yeah." She goes, "I've got to tell your family ghost story." I said, "Fine, okay, I'm all ears." And she told me this story, and it sort of made me go a bit tingly, but mainly the way that she told it. And I won't be able to do that same effect to you. I don't know that capability, unfortunately. Her nan grew up in Bexley, and they went for a little walk around that whole place, and mainly the garden areas, looking around about the 1930s now. And I'm guessing that the gardens were open to the public for them to enjoy it as well, or as I say, it was rented out a lot. But her nan was able to walk into these gardens, and she had her grandchildren with her. Now, they were sitting down by the back of the hall. Now, this is where you now see the topiary. I did ask, was the topiary there at the time, and she did not know that. She couldn't answer if that was there or not. It hadn't come up in her nan's tale that she told her. The nan said that she was sitting up against the wall, and the grandchildren were off playing, but one grandchild was standing over on this really perfectly kept grass, and he had his arms out and he was dancing around in a circle. And it's a bit weird. No, he's standing there holding hands with nobody, and after a while he come back and he was singing Ring a Ring a Roses. Now, the Ring a Ring Roses song, I don't know if you know, Ring a Ring a Roses, pocket full of posies, a tissue will fall down, which is actually a story about the plague. Now, obviously, we know that we had 6 aldermen and the owner of that building die of the plague. And she asked the grandchild, what was he doing? He said he was dancing with the girls, singing this song. And they goes, what girls? He turned around and said, Sarah and Mary. Sarah and Mary were 2 of the girls, but there was 4 girls that he was dancing with in this circle, all singing this nursery rhyme. The nan was, very puzzled and thinking, I know children do see things. She asked him to describe the children, and he described them as 2 really short girls. He said they were really young, about the same age as him. Now, he was 6 years old, so we are talking young children. And he said Sarah was quite taller and she had long black hair, but all the children were wearing completely white dresses with bows on the back. Now, at the time, I remember thinking of the railway children, because I'm sure one of those was called Sarah. And their dresses sort of ring a bell, the white dresses with bows on the back. But when I got told that story, that's what I imagined, that he was standing there dancing around with these ghosts of these children singing this song. Now, I know that the Ring a Ring Roses song is an old song. It's something that, I don't know if kids even sing that now. I don't remember my children singing it. I know I did when I was a kid. I know that it was part of my childhood, that song. And it weren't later on until we sort of knew the truth about it. But I'm sure now, actually, kids probably would do, because horrible histories. I'm sure that would have covered that in some form of it. But the lady told me this story, and it intrigued me. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go away and dig into that, which it did. It took me a few months, but I did come up with other sightings, a very similar theme. Now, if you remember my last video, I said I had done some research, and during that period of time, I met another researcher who was doing some research on places in Kent and Dartford. This was one of the places he had done some research on. But he was doing this for his own book that I don't know if ever happened. But I contacted him and asked him if he had anything on Hall Place, and mainly about this story. I told him this story, and he said it fitted in with something that some local people had told him, that when they visit those gardens, they hear the sound of children play. And one of the things that come into these people's heads was the Ring a Ring of Posies song. When they're around that garden area, as they're walking through, this song starts playing into their head. So this was before Lady Limerick took over the place. So say Lady Limerick, she owned it till 1940s. I think she passed away around that sort of time. Then it passed into Bexley Council's hands, and that's where we sort of leave the inheritance side of it. Since then, it's been in the hands of the council and into a trust. But but Lady Limerick, every time it come up, there was some link there with the Dashwoods. Now, she was one who took over the area. But this is also where he told me, and I have heard this story since, about Lady Constantine. From what I understand, she was up in the tower, she was looking out at the fields, and she see her husband get gored to death by a stag. Now, I know stag nights can be a little bit vicious, but now this is taking the mick. And if you're American, you're probably not going to get that. But yes, unfortunately, her husband was killed by a stag. She said to have either jumped to her death or died of shock on the spot. She is said to haunt that tower and said to now be the form of a grey lady that is said to walk around the building sobbing due to her husband's death. People have said they hear her footsteps in that gallery and in the tower. So we've got two galleries there. You've got the minstrel gallery and the normal gallery. The minstrel gallery is meant to have sort of mystical music playing when nobody's in there, but footsteps are said to be heard in the normal gallery and in the attic. Now, the attic is around about the area that people believe that she was looking out of when she witnessed her husband's death. We also have the ghost of the Black Prince. He was actually the son of Edward III. Now, he was meant to be this really decorated soldier, and unfortunately he passed away. His ghost is said to haunt the hallways, the Great Hall, and people say he is the figure that when you walk around the building, you can see move inside the glass, like through the windows. This comes up to a lot of the other reports we have about Hall Place. Now, the most common sighting at Hall Place, as I just said, is through the windows. This may be because it's often shut and it's by sort of like organised tours and special opening days like bank holidays. You can go there and get inside. So most people will walk around the building. Now, on the day, I actually spoke to a couple that were there, and they'd had their own experience at Hall Place themselves. So this elderly couple, I'd seen them walking around the building, and I approached them and asked them, well, first of all, I explained what I was doing, and they were interested in it. They knew some of the ghost stories, and I asked them, had they ever seen anything? And the lady went, yeah, of course we have. I was like, what? And she, of course we've seen something. She goes, it's so common around here. Oh, really? It's a bit bizarre, coming out and saying, oh, yeah. I thought she was going to poo-poo it and all that sort of stuff. She goes, no, we hear voices in the hall all the time. We've been walking past there, and all of a sudden you think it's your reflection in the glass as you're walking, and you'll turn around, and what she described matches what other people say. They say they see this elegant figure of a man walking through the hall. Now, the first time she see it, she asks at reception who is actually in that hall, and can they go in there and visit with them, thinking that it was open to the public. They went, there's no one in the hall. It's locked up. No one is in there. And she said, well, I've just seen someone in there. Then you've just seen the ghost. So they're a bit blasé about it, But again, probably because this is one of the most common sightings reported at that place. As I said, it lines up with other people. So a lot of local people who walk around the area say they see either an elegant man walking through the hall, or this grey figure, the grey figure of a lady. They see her walking through the hall. Now, the couple also told me about another ghost story that I did not know about, and I can't find other information to back it up, but I'm not going to doubt them. They told me that one winter a child was skating on the lake at the bottom. I don't know how much video I've got of the lake area, but I know there's some geese down there, and it was quite boggy and wet when I went there, so I don't think I really walked across the grass. I have to check the video. But they were skating on the lake and the ice broke and the child drowned. What they told me was that from then on you could hear the screaming and cryings of children around that lake, and also people panicking and screaming as if they're trying to get somebody out. After that, people have turned around and said they do get visions of a girl skating on the lake even when it's not frozen, especially when it's foggy and misty. Again, I've not been able to back this up, but I like the sound of it, so I'm including it. It sounds like a typical good ghost story for that area. Now, I do know of a ghost to do with that lake, but it's meant to be on the opposite side. So people said they've been standing there. Now, this happened during paranormal investigations. I don't know how much weight you want to put on that. You know my sort of views, and I know it sounds terrible. I spent 20 years doing investigations and doing my own research, but this was a group who had a quite good reputation. They were walking around the building when they see a white figure walking across the field at the back of the lake. So I'm sure I've got photos of this here, where you got the lake but the field behind it. They see this white figure across the lake. I say it's a lake, it's more like a stream, and then onto the field. So they see her crossing the field and then disappearing. This, again, I say this is a paranormal team, but this was quite a good reputation, paranormal team. When they asked about it, apparently some of the people who worked in the garden area that do all the plants and all that, some of those had actually reported seeing the similar shape. And then they said it was like a lady, but again, it could be just a dense patch of fog moving across. That was their explanation for it. So the gardeners believe that, yes, they see something, but probably not to spook themselves. They're saying it's a dense patch of fog moving across the field. It could well be, but it happens quite often. So having the same bit of dense fog moving across the field is a little bit unplausible, although ghosts are unplausible to some. I say I'm open-minded. I want ghosts to be real. I want them to tap on the door and go, hello, I'm a ghost. Is that ever going to happen? Probably not, but well, to some people I guess it does. Now, listening to some of the stories and meeting some of the people, it definitely has happened to them. Not saying that they're ghosts, but it's definitely introduced themselves to people that no longer live. So yeah, it's one of, I mean, Lady Limerick, she had an agreement with the police that if the ghost got out of hand, she could call the police. So we're talking about 1940s. And I do know that American airmen, so in 1944, American airmen come over and they stayed and worked in Hall Place. They were actually doing a part of the Enigma encoding. So when the codes come over, they'd help break them, even though we found it and broke the code before the Americans, just to set the record straight. It's not a Hollywood film. So, but they come over and they worked and stayed in that place. During that time, a number of American servicemen reported seeing the ghost of a lady walking through where they were working. So again, this is backing up the evidence that there's something bizarre going on in this location. Well, I will say, sadly, none of the staff there wanted to engage in conversation regarding the ghost side of it. And they're like, no, don't know nothing. And they're quite blunt about it, which I thought was a shame. It had a feeling that, I don't know, didn't feel welcoming there. I guess it's because it is all closed off. There's some building work going on, and that building work is actually one of the things that can make things happen. So in 1985, we've got two workmen that are working on the outside of the building. Now this is as you go around the back and you look at, so you've got the stream behind you and you're looking up. I've got some good photos here that you can see looking straight up, so it's almost like a framed picture, and you've got the pathway and the windows of the building on the side. They were working near the main door. As they was doing so, they were one of them had his head down and he was working on the brickwork at the bottom. The other gentleman was mixing up some mortar that they were going to fill in on the bricks. He turns around and he goes to pass the mortar to the other gentleman, stops to let a lady walk out the door shut, hesitates, and then hands it back, and then looks to say, what was that? In his mind, he thought he see a lady walk past him by that door just as he was about to hit her with this spade of mortar to pass to his mate. And of course, it shocked him. His mate went, what's that with you? He went, I just thought I see a lady come through the door. And of course, I took the mickey out of him a little bit. A couple of days later, the same thing happened the other way round. So we had the gentleman that was a bit poo-pooing it, was working at the other side of the door. He was walking across, so he was going to go past the door. He stopped because somebody brushed past him coming out the door. The door was shut and locked. He stood back, and then his mate looked at him and just laughed. He went, I told you, this place is haunted. So again, something like that, two workmen, I'm likely to believe that they actually felt something or thought they see something to make them to react like that. Again, I do like when you got the workmen or firemen or police coming out with their own ghost reports on these places. I mean, there's one thing where alarms do get set off in that building quite often, and people turn up thinking there's people got into the building and there's nothing in there, but somebody has triggered the sensor alarms. It's an old building. Yes, spiders, moths and all that can trigger the alarms. Definitely. I mean, I've got trip sensors that we used, and we would often get them set off by a spider. You wouldn't know it was a spider until you put the look at the videotapes. You see a spider crawl across or go up and break the beam, or a moth fly past and break the beam. Yes, it could be. Security cameras and security lights and sensors are fallible, so we can't say it was definitely a ghost, but they do get called out quite a lot because the alarms go off with no explanation. Now, one of the other ghosts that have been reported by locals is quite bizarre, and this is a ghost of a gentleman playing bowls, but not on a bowling green or anything like that. They say he's playing bowls at the back of the house. There is grass there, but I'm guessing it's in the same place where that main door is, like round the back where the main door is, because it described it with the lake behind them and where the water speeds up and goes down sort of a bit of a drop. What I've sort of looked at is that, yes, in this book, it does mention about lawn bowls. I don't know if that is something that is well known of by locals. That is why this ghost of somebody playing bowls has come about. But again, it falls into the right category of history backing up a ghost report. So what they say on summer mornings, and it is only on summer mornings when it's very, very sunny and the sun is out, that they walk around the building and at the corner of their eye they see a gentleman on the lawn rolling a ball. But when they turn to focus on him, he disappears. None of these stories are particularly creepy or spooky. I guess they are the run-of-the-mill haunted manor building ghost tales. They're not the horror stories. I guess the lady dropping dead after her husband's death is quite dramatic. Not the true horrific, people jumping out on people and ghosts jumping out on them and terrifying events. These are, I guess, the old school ghost stories of a haunted building, and I like that. Also knowing that Francis Dashwood owned this building did intrigue me. Now, the Hellfire caves are incredible. I want to go there. I want to have a look through there. You've got the bridge. Is it the Bridge of Sighs in there that you meant to cross over? A lot of it is being embellished, and so like in the 18th century he did put a lot of artifacts in there that didn't belong in there. A lot of stalactites and stalactites that don't belong in there he put there to make it look more dramatic. and I did see this pop up on, I believe, a Silent Witness episode recently. They filmed in the Hellfire caves. Yeah, it's a Silent Witness episode. They filmed in the Hellfire caves. And of course the Dashwood Memorial is up on top of the hill that you can go and have a look at. And that is creepy on its own. Now, there is a couple of people I do watch on YouTube called the Grim Life Collective. They do a video on Hellfire caves. Well worth going watching that, because they go up to that memorial and they go down into the caves as well, and that's where I got the information that it's all been sort of embellished as well. So I'm not the wealth of knowledge, I just cheated and got it off of YouTube. But they're an American couple, very into their horror and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, so that's the Grim Life Collective. Check them out, because they do quite a few places in this country, mainly match them up with film sets and all that sort of stuff, but they're very interesting. Again, there are people on YouTube that do a miles better job than me. I try to do my best getting information out and do as many of these videos as I can. As I said, I started trying to do a live stream. I did notice that the sound didn't record through the microphone. Don't know what that is, got to work that out. But also, again, thank you for your comments, thank you for your messages, and thank you for the super chats. You know, people paying to get their message on there, incredible, thank you so much. Didn't know that was a thing till I got a super chat on my last video as a super thanks, so that was brilliant, thank you for that. So we're growing the channel slowly. I intend to keep making the videos. You keep enjoying them, I'll keep making them. I'm trying to get as much of my research and old stories out there and covered. Yes, I want to go further afield. I want to cover all ghost stories across the country that are not well known, or if they're well known, I want to get the local lowdown on them and get the locals' views on them as well. It's great just having, it's good having ghost stories in a book, but I want to have that little inside information, talking to locals again, walking up to people down at Bexley and asking them, do you believe in ghosts? It did raise some eyebrows. I'll tell you one thing though, walk around the gardens and you've got the big greenhouses. I walked through, I did speak to one gentleman in there and I said to him about all the ghosts and all that. He said that it's a really creepy place. Now he said, as you walk in through the main entrance, so you walk through, you've got the barn, the Jacobean barn that is up on bricks. He said that he finds that really, really creepy at that point. And every time he walks up towards the house, his mind is drawn to that sort of cottage that is up on the bricks. I do get that. I got that sort of feeling as well. But I don't know if it looks unusual having this building up on bricks, so it draws your attention. But at the same time, it felt as if you was always aware of that building behind you when you're looking at this place. Again, it has got a creepy feeling about it. The whole building has got a very creepy vibe. As you go around to the other side, where the topiary gardens are, to where the Ring of Roses spirits goes from meant to be, you've got a really tiny door in the building. Now, I don't know any stories about that door or anything, but the people that were walking around that day all commented on how creepy they felt walking past that door, as if all of a sudden this door was going to swing open and something was going to jump out on them. And yeah, I get that. Then also you walk past and you've got this little fountain head and this little bit of water coming out. Again, it looks creepy. I did try to speak to a couple of builders around the other side, asked them about, you know, have they ever seen anything ghosty or anything like that. They weren't really very talkative, but that's how it goes. Some you win, some you lose. You can only ask the information when you're there. Again, you know, you've got the books, you've got other people's research, so you've got to make of it what you can. You can't have access to everybody. I do send emails off to these locations beforehand to ask if I can meet up with somebody. Not many agreed to that. Don't know why. I've got one coming up that is letting me do it. They're going to meet me up. Hopefully they're going to let me film them and have a proper conversation on camera. So that may be a 2-part video. Hopefully I'll get some good access to some places in London that I'm looking to do. If it doesn't, I'll just make the videos anyway and just do what I can. But again, thank you for your support. Put your notifications on. For some reason, my notifications are not going out. So make sure you put the bell, hit the bell to all, and then you'll get notified when my videos go out. I do know not just me, but other YouTubers have had, but other people on YouTube have had trouble with their videos not being sent out on notifications. So if you can do that and just check that it comes up. At the moment I'm doing a video every week, so hopefully that will continue, but we'll see how we go. Anyway, thank you for your support and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.